You're listening to the Ordinary Joe's podcast with Joe D and Eric B. The Ordinary Joe's podcast.
Okay, we are back with another Ordinary Joe's type podcast, and this time it's going to be an ordinary conversation. Talk about Christmas, the spirit of Christmas, share some Christmas memories, good presents, bad presents, and maybe throw in some favorite Christmas movies. And I got one movie that I got to ask if you guys think is a Christmas movie. So let's get this going. I am Eric B.
And I'm Joe D. And we are
Ordinary Joes. All right. The Ordinary Joes strikes again.
The Ordinary Josephs.
The Ordinary Josephs. Merry Christmas, man. It's around the corner. Around the corner. Merry Christmas. It's kind of a weird 2020 Christmas for us, right? I mean,
yeah, man. It's like this year is like dragging and going fast at the same time. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what it feels like.
I mean, I don't want to say what we did last year, but man, last year compared to this year, it's like we're like, dude, it's Christmas already. It's like just a couple months ago, I was like, no, I'm not ready for Christmas. Now here we are. Serious. Christmas is here, man.
I know, I wasn't ready.
I got a question for you, man, and this is a question that I wanted to ask. And I always pick your brain about East Coast and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I know in New York, you guys celebrate Christmas. It's a big thing. You guys, you guys have Times Square. You have Rockefeller Center over there. Like a lot of us here on the West Coast, like as soon as we go to New York, that's like those are the first place we want to visit, right? So how is it during Christmas time around, those areas? Or is there a particular spot other than the two places that I mentioned that's, under the radar?
I mean, besides the two spots you mentioned are, I mean, they're a must. I think I always tell people, like, you always hear about the bad weather in the winter in New York, so people try to avoid going to New York in the winter, but I really think everyone should at least once go to New York, around Christmas time in December. For one, it's not as cold as you might think. It's probably close to Bay Area winters, because it gets pretty cold here, 30s, 40s, for the most part. But it's just something you have to experience, man. Like, was it Home Alone? That's probably one of the few, and I think I might have mentioned it before. It's one of the few movies that really does kind of capture, what it feels like. Like you go to Rockefeller Center, you go see the tree, which is, I mean, huge. The Rockettes. When I was a kid, the Muppets were really popular. Oh my God. Specifically the Muppet Babies, and they would do the Muppets on Ice, and they would have like a Christmas special. When I was a kid, I got to go see that, which was like, amazing. Blew my mind out of the water because it's like I'm actually seeing, all the characters huge like in front of me. But it's just a feeling like you go to 34th Street, like Miracle on 34th Street. You do the shopping there, and that's changed a lot more. So it's more pedestrian friendly. Okay. So now during Christmas, there's I don't even think you can drive through part of it, like where the Macy's, the 34th Street Macy's is. Man, it's just something you gotta check out. It's a feeling. Just the cold. You get those roasted nuts on the corner. Like you smell them like 3 blocks away. The honey roasted nuts. Oh man, yeah.
I mean, I definitely want to visit New York. I mean, God, I can't believe a movie from 1947, Miracle on 34th Street, is a movie that made me want to visit New York during the holidays. Yeah. It's like, you're watching a movie, and when we first watched the movie, it was black and white, right? They redid it to where there's a colored version. So I'm like, God, I want to visit New York, man. I don't know why. And then the same thing, Home Alone, him walking around doing the stuff that he did. It's like, okay. I mean, it's definitely on a bucket list that during the holidays, probably not Christmas Day, but during the Christmas season, Christmas holidays, I definitely want to visit New York just to check out everything that's there, and I'm not a cold weather guy. I hate the snow. I don't even drive up to Tahoe when we're here just because I hate the snow. But, this is one thing that I'll probably sacrifice and, get that goose down comforter jacket that I need.
I think you'd be able to handle it. I mean, just the trick is actually to layer. Yeah. You got to wear loose layers, because if you get too heavy of a coat and it's only, 40 something degrees out, you're going to be dying, end up getting sick, sweating. Yeah.
Oh
A
man.
cool thing though about the Macy's that I had mentioned, they still have part of the original like wooden escalators. I forget
Oh
what part
wow.
of it. It's a few floors, and I didn't know this the last time I went to New York. I just hopped in there to get something and was looking for the men's department and was kind of got lost, and then I just found this one section of I was kind of hesitant too. I was like, wait a minute, should I get on this thing? Like, it sounds all
Is it
rickety
gonna
and
break
like,
on me?
but it was just really, really cool to see a wooden escalator. I mean, obviously under it was mechanics, but the actual steps that fold into each other and
Wow.
the part that you hold was made out of wood.
Wow.
It's pretty nice.
I'm gonna Google that right after we get off because I gotta see what
Yeah.
that looks like, man. I didn't even know they had a wooden escalator there. So
I mean, I didn't
yeah.
even know they had them. Period. I always thought they were the metal ones we normally, take.
Yeah. And I'm assuming like in the show, like if they show that in the movie, we're thinking it's just an escalator, regular escalator, but it's a wooden escalator, which is kind of cool, man. But yeah, man, I mean, it's like here in San Francisco, we do have our Christmas spirit. There is, we do the big tree lighting over at Union Square and all that. Then I would say recently they finally put out a skate rink, an ice skate rink, because that,
Yeah.
that wasn't here like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty new. I mean it's like the one at Embarcadero I think is the longest one that's been out, the longest one, and then the one at Union Squares, I would say 5-6 years, maybe even longer. But yeah, we didn't have that. We always wanted to visit places where it's like, what's the Christmas tradition like? And when you think of Christmas and New Year's, the first thing they think of is like New York, because everything from movies to everything is like New York wise, right? So it's like, yeah. Man, I want to see what it's like in New York, but it's that cold weather. That's the only thing that's stopping me. That cold weather.
You always hear about kind of like that New York attitude, right? And everybody in New York is rude, and I don't think it's true. I think it's just everybody's in a rush.
Yeah.
And you also hear about like when you go to the city, it's hard to describe how the city just has like this energy. Well, you feel it even more on Christmas, but it's almost like everybody. That's the one time of the year for the most part. Everybody's nice to each other. You know what I mean? For the most part, unless you're going into like shopping like 2 days before Christmas or something like that, well then everybody's just pissed off. But for the most part, it's just the city feels, I don't know, lighter. It's not so heavy, not so much drama. Everybody's kind of just chill. And yeah, it's a cool time. But I must say, you just mentioned Union Square. I like the last few years, I must say, I kind of get that same sort of feeling now because they've done so much with that area as far as, being pedestrian friendly, like I said before, closing off streets so people can do shopping. It's just, recently I've kind of, it gave me a little nostalgia, made me feel like I was back home a little bit.
It's funny you mentioned that. For the longest time, I only go downtown. One, when I used to work downtown, right? When I used to go down to the hotel, that's the only time I really went downtown. I want to say 2-3 years ago, a friend of mine took a picture, posted it on Instagram, and I didn't realize they closed Stockton Street. And like you said, pedestrian friendly. They have like booths where people can sing music, tables, and they had like a bunch of games. And I'm like, when did this happen? And it's like, it's been like this for a while. I'm like, wow, and it's like, it's just, if you live in a big city like San Francisco, you don't want to go to places like Union Square or stuff like that because traffic is bad, parking is terrible. So it's just one of those places that you don't go. And now if we do Christmas shopping, where do we go? We don't go downtown, right? We go to the malls. We'll go to like Target or something like that where it's a lot closer to home. Yeah, it's like I don't need to go to Macy's. I don't need to go to Neiman Marcus. I don't need to go to any of those stuff. So, I mean, that's the only bad part about it. But like, I do want to go check out my city and see what it's like down there. Even with COVID right now, they still set up that thing the way it was, which is, I guess, it's still kind of, well, they closed the street down from what I know. I don't know if there's, allowing a lot of people hanging out, but it's a nice place to visit one day. I definitely want to go check it out. The movie that was released in 2003, and one of my favorite, I call it a Christmas movie, but the movie Elf. And that one,
that's a Christmas movie.
it's a Christmas movie. Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. But that one end scene where they said, gotta spread Christmas cheer, and that's why Santa's sleigh's not flying. That was New York, right? Wasn't that New York?
Yeah,
It was New York. So when you mentioned that, the spirit and a lot of people are nicer during the holidays, I was like, yeah, that's what they were saying in Elf, man. That's exactly what they're saying in Elf.
And I think was that some like the premise of Ghostbusters 2, I think had something to do with that, where like the slime was going according to like
that negative energy New Yorkers were having. And it's funny because it's good to have you on because you're from New York and you can explain, and you did explain why New Yorkers feel a certain way. And I'm from San Francisco, and I feel a certain way in San Francisco when I'm driving in the city and I see someone's license plate says like San Jose and they're taking their time driving. I'm like, dude, get out of the way, kind of thing. Yeah. So I guess it just depends on, where you're from. And I'm pretty sure if New Yorkers are in New York and they see somebody from, Connecticut in that area and they're like, what are you doing here? Get out of the way kind of thing. Yeah. I think that's just everywhere, man. I think it's everywhere.
Yeah. And I think too, also, New York people are very forward,
Yeah.
They're not, they're pretty to the point, and for some people, I guess that might seem like a little rude or a little off-putting. So, but I believe me, most people in New York are really good-hearted. I have my one of my coworkers who is in love with New York and goes as much as he can. And he's like, no, I get it now. I get it. He's like, yeah, tourists are bothering me now too, because he knows where he wants to go and they're getting his way. So
why don't he just
like,
no,
everybody's actually really nice. If he has a question, they'll give you directions or whatever. I'm like, yeah.
Now it's a cool place. I would always say, like, everyone always asks me about like Hawaii, right? Why don't you move back to Hawaii? And I always tell them it's a cool place to visit, man, but I don't want to move back there. Because, like, you take away certain things from Hawaii that when you visit, you're like, wow, this is cool, right? And I would probably feel the same way if I moved to New York. As much as a lot of people say, like you say, your coworker loves New York, always wants to go there. So the question is, why don't they just move there if they love it that much?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Because I would think you take away that nostalgia feeling of, wow, I'm in New York, right? It's a good place to visit, maybe for like a week, 2 weeks max. But if you got to live there, then you got to do the whole commute. I have a friend from the Bay Area who lives in New York right now. She works in one of the big hotels out in New York. Her and her husband works in one of the big hotels in New York, and they don't own a car. It's like everywhere, like all the Facebook posts, the Instagram posts, they're always on a bike or they're always on one of those boards where it has the little remote control kind of thing, right? Their kids are always riding the bike. And I'm like, how come you guys don't have a car? And they said, we only get a car when we do, like when we have to go to Costco or we have to do a big Target run. Other than that, living in New York, you don't need a car, right?
No, you don't. It's totally true. When my parents, they retired, my dad didn't want to take his car. He wanted to buy a new one. So he left his old one. It was a beater or whatever. And he was like, you can have it. I was like, oh, great. I got a car. It's awesome. And then I realized that the only time I was really driving it was just to, for street parking, because he had the street cleaning. So I had to move it across the street. That was literally the only time I was driving it, because I worked in the city and I took public transportation. It was really close. Same thing when I would hang out. We would go to the city. You're not going to drive for drinking, and there's just no parking. It's just more of a headache. So you really only need it if you're going to go out of town, maybe for the weekend, or maybe do some grocery shopping. But like now today with Uber and all that stuff, I mean, there's ways around it. You really don't need a car.
It's funny because like me here on the West Coast, I have my two favorite New York shows that I watch even till now when they show it on syndication. Friends, which is one New York show, and then Seinfeld, which is another New York show. And it's funny because if you see these two shows, you have Friends who none of them have a car, and then you have Seinfeld who most of them have a car. So I'm like, they must not live in the same parts of New York, because it's like...
No, well, they do, but the thing with Jerry Seinfeld, I think he forgets sometimes how rich he is.
Yes.
So, and how rich he's been for a long time. So he probably had a car, but he also could afford parking, I'm sure. So
Yeah, they do. They do mention that in some of the shows, the little garage or parking places they do. But yeah, man, it's definitely. I mean, come holiday season, I definitely want to visit New York. I definitely want to see what New York is about. And hopefully once everything is back to normal in a sort of way, 1 December, you'll see me in New York and posting in front of Rockefeller Center, hiding my phone because I don't want no one to ask me what time it is. And next, I'm running down whatever street trying to chase somebody for my phone.
No, it's not that bad. It's really not. Gets a bad rap. You know what's cool? And just in the winter in New York is Central Park.
Nice.
That's they call it a park, but it doesn't do it justice because it's it's huge. It takes up a good portion of Manhattan, and especially around Christmas time. The way they decorate the tree, not all the trees, but just kind of decorations with lights and things throughout the park. And there's actually a lot of things to do in Central Park. Wow. There's lakes, there's a zoo, tons of food. Yeah, I think that actually adds as well to the whole vibe of Christmas here in New York.
I mean, it's on my list. Trust me, it's on my list. I'm one of those guys that, as a young kid, I hated New York. Everything that has to deal with New York, I'm like, no, New York. As I got older, I got grown to appreciate New York. It's more the
LT,
the LT days. It's like, damn you sacked Joe Montana, took him out, made him have back surgery. We missed the Super Bowl because of you. yeah. During that time, but no, it's more like
understandable.
You had that whole East Coast, West Coast thing, right? We talked about this when we did our hip hop podcast, East Coast, West Coast. And it was just like, I'm a West Coast guy. There's no reason for me to go to New York. But then again, as I got older, I realized the history of New York, the history that's around New York, that surrounds New York. It's like, man, I definitely want to go visit this spot because there's history involved. And now as I got older, I became more of a foodie. And just the food that New York has, I definitely want to go there to try the food. And that's the bad thing about New York is there's a lot of food that I know I'm going to gain 15 or 20 pounds by the time I come back.
Yeah, you gotta lose about 10 pounds before you go, just so you can come back.
Break even, right? Broke even. Yeah. Broke even. How'd you do? I broke even. I ate about 15, 20 pounds, food worth, But yeah, man, it's just, Christmas, man. It's just one of those. I don't know about you, but this year just didn't feel like Christmas to me, just with everything that's been going around from, the COVID-19 and everything like that. And it just, it didn't feel right. It's like usually this time of the year, we're planning a trip to Sacramento because that's where the majority of my family lives. And we're going up there and we're doing a Christmas party. And we usually do it on Christmas Eve. This year, it's like we have to keep it in a bubble. We have to keep it small. There's 6 of us, and we ended up doing Kris Kringle for 6 people. And
same thing we're doing.
Yeah. It's like, should we do Kris Kringle? We're like, well, there's only 6 of us. It's like, well, let's figure out something. So instead of doing a $30 gift limit, we said, you know what? Since there's only 6 of us, let's do it. Let's go 50. We're doing $50. My dad's like, nice. Let's do 100. I'm like, yeah, if you do 100, I'm tapping out, man. We're all just going to give each other $100 gift card. That's what's going to end up happening. But yeah, so yeah, we it's you got to make do with what the situation is right now, and the whole purpose of Christmas is being around the ones you love. And I know your immediate family's in New York, so it's hard for you to be with them. But now you got your family with your wife and that side, so it's a good I guess counterbalance between the two.
Yeah. You gotta, just be thankful for what you have with, like you said, with everything going on and this year being not your typical year. We found ways to work around it, plus I still have to work on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, so I can't do too much anyway. But actually we're doing the white elephant. Sorry, we're not doing Kris Kringle. We're doing white elephant. My brother-in-law said, what, this year, since everything's kind of up in the air and with work and jobs and things, let's just kind of keep it cheap and fun. And I'm pretty excited about them. I guess, I can spoil alert because then I can see it. I got the Hamilton Beach breakfast sandwich maker.
Okay.
This thing's amazing. It's picture like a waffle maker, right?
Yeah.
But it has compartments for your like egg McMuffin. I mean, sorry, your English muffin, excuse me, your egg, and then your protein. And then you just smash it all together, and then boom,
Wow.
breakfast sandwich. Yeah, it's unnecessary. Will take up unneeded space.
I would ask you, are you going to end up stealing your own gift?
No.
I'm taking
I
this.
might though. I kind of like it. It depends. It depends on what the rules are. I got to kind of figure out my strategy when we start.
You're like, man. Yeah, I mean, White Elephant, man. White Elephant is crazy. It's funny you mentioned White Elephant because years ago, this is a Christmas memory I'm gonna share with you. Years ago, we're talking to the 90s. I want to say 1991, right? My cousin decides to give everybody a Chia Pet. And it was just the cousins. There's 4 cousins. There's 4 of us. So my cousin and his sister decides to give me and my sister a Chia Pet. And, back then, Chia Pets was like the rage. Everybody talked about Chia Pet. And I'm like, the fuck am I going to do with a Chia Pet? We live in an apartment. We don't grow stuff here, right? It's like, I only have one window. So the following year, we did White Elephant. Everyone decided, we're going to bring one present, do this. I decided I'm giving this White Elephant back. I'm giving this Chia Pet back. So I gave the Chia Pet back, and everybody was like, it was like the funniest gag thing everybody realized because they're like, hey, I gave this last year, right? So it's like, I kind of wish the second one was still around, but my dad opens it up the day, we had 2. So the first one was mine. The second one, my dad decides to open it up and tries to grow it. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I just want to see if this really works. Cause you hear the commercial and he's like, chia, he's singing the commercial, right? He's like, I want to see if it works. I'm like, Dad.
I've always wondered if it worked. I wanted one as a kid.
I don't know I don't know if it works or not. But the funny story about the Chia Pet is every year after that, it's been passed around. We're talking about 30 something years. And it's still, the box is a little flimsy. Everything is still, but someone one year someone saran wrapped it so that way none of the the stuff, whatever chemicals that's in there starts leaking out. When I had it one year, I was trying to find one of those, those football display cases, but I was gonna put the Chia Pet in there. But I was like, this
a museum piece.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this display case costs more than this Chia Pet, so I'm not gonna buy it. But man, it's still going around. This is gonna be the first year that we're not gonna get it, or we're not gonna be able to pass it around because with what's going on. But it's like during White Elephant in our family. So we have 2. We have Kris Kringle that we do on Christmas Eve, and then we have White Elephant that we do on New Year's Eve. So it's going to come either Christmas Eve, I could get the White Elephant. I can get the Chia Pet, and I'll tell everyone, hey, come Christmas Eve, this might be going back to or New Year's Eve, it might be going back to somebody.
Who has it now? Do you know?
Oh, man, it's funny because just a couple days ago, we were talking about that because we were talking about the tradition. This can't move forward. And we're like, hey, who has the White Elephant? And no one wanted to say who had it, right? Someone just said, don't be surprised if you get a package at your door this year. I'm like, great. Yes, we need to actually write it down who has it, but for some reason for 30 years we haven't written it down who has it. But someone has it.
That's part of the fun of it, not knowing who has it. So you have no clue where it's going to come from.
Exactly. It's one of those things where it's like White Elephant and Kris Kringle's become one of those things where like you're opening the box like this. And then when you open it, you're like, oh man, it's a damn Chia Pet. But it's
that's funny. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I may have inadvertently started something similar with my family. When we were a kid, my mom had this. The only way I can describe it was as like a metal ball, right? And she would leave it on the floor, and you plug it in. It's an ornament, I guess, and it just has this annoying bird whistle.
Oh my god!
It's just like. Yeah, this just weird kind of bird, almost like a water whistle thing, and it's really, really annoying. And I don't know why my mom liked it, but she would pull that thing out every year, and every chance we would get, we would unplug it, because it would just drive you crazy. We were talking about it one day, and I said, you know what? I wonder if I could find this thing online. And so I went on Amazon, and sure enough, I find it. I was
No
like, yes.
way.
So yeah, so my parents were visiting my sister in New York one Christmas. I want to say maybe 2 years ago. And so I went ahead and I had it just shipped directly to my sister's place.
I'm looking it up right now.
Because my sister, she hated it the most out of all of us. And I gave it to my mom, and she plugged it in over there. My sister wanted to kill me. And so she told my mom, like, you got to take it with you. But my mom ended up mailing it back to her because my brother-in-law liked it so much. And so now I think that thing's in danger of coming to me in the mail.
Oh, you're going to get it. You're going to get it.
It was so annoying, though. I really don't understand what, like, the purpose of it was. It might have been, what's the song? The Partridge in the Pear Tree or something like that. I think it's supposed to, or Turtle Doves. Or, yeah, well, maybe it's supposed to be one of those birds, but it was so annoying. Like,
you're like, God,
drives you mad.
Why do you want this whistle, man? It wasn't this whistle, right?
No,
it was a bird whistle.
I would have loved that.
Keeping this one. Yeah, but it's just funny because so you have this ball going around that, and we have the Chia Pet, and it's just these little things that we start that we don't realize that. Man, this could end up becoming a tradition. I mean, we're thinking this Chia Pet's going to go forever, and and it's funny because as the family got bigger, they started inviting other relatives outside of the house and stuff like that. So it's like we got to make sure that the Chia Pet's going to go to someone that knows the tradition, knows what's going on. That I don't accidentally give it to Joe, and Joe's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to open this when I get home. It's like no, so
thanks, Eric.
Yeah. It's like the box is a little broken. Yes, dude, that's from 1991. That's original packing from 1991. But yeah,
my wife, do you see what this cheap motherfucker got me?
He got me a Chia Pet, and the box is broken. And I think it was the original. I think it was I don't know if it was a sheep. Is the original Chia Pet that came out?
Yeah,
I think it's the sheep.
Sheep.
Yeah, it was a sheep. The sheep is the sheep. But I think my sister had, I forgot which one she had. She had maybe the one that actually looked like a plant or whatever. But this was a sheep, and it's been passed around forever and ever. And it's like, who's gonna get it this year? And that's the fun thing about Christmas and the holidays, man. It's like that's the one thing we say is who's gonna get the Chia Pet? My dad sits in the corner every time someone's opening the box. My dad's going chia. It's like, come on, Dad, don't do that yet. So man, yeah, it's just one of those cool, fun family traditions that this year we're not going to be able to do.
Speaking of tradition, let me ask you: how do you feel about opening gifts at midnight? Do you let your kids open the one gift at midnight?
I let them open everything at midnight. I mean, it's like. Okay, no matter what anyone says, Christmas morning is still a morning, right? It's still 8, whatever time in the morning. And in all honesty, man, I'd rather sleep in on Christmas morning than have to wake up early in the morning and all right, guys, open your present, If we come home or if we're already home on Christmas Eve and they want to open it on Christmas Eve, go ahead and open it on Christmas Eve. It's like my family was, they kind of raised me to open it up. Or to open one gift on Christmas Eve and then open the rest on Christmas morning because they want it to be around the Christmas tree and all that stuff, right? But it's like, what's 7 hours gonna make? That's just how I look at it. What about you guys? How do you guys?
So when I was younger, young under the age of 10, our cousins and my aunts and cousins would come over, and generally what they would do is you were allowed to open your gift that you got from your family that was visiting, and then everybody would go home, and the next day you would open your gifts from your parents or whoever, or from Santa. But that was that was a slippery slope, because more often than not, they'd get drunk. And then it's like, all right, well, we're just gonna sleep over, and then it's like, all right, well, let them open again. That's how my dad was. My dad was always like, he'd probably like you. He'd probably rather sleep in Christmas morning because he probably the only day off he had. So, yeah, let's go, let him open the gifts. So a lot of times that would happen.
I mean, I honestly, I don't know why some people, and I do have family members who, if we visit them on Christmas Eve, my cousin, for instance, like, hey, open the gift that, Uncle Eric and them gave you. Yeah, which I understand because I want to see the reaction on their face and they're like, oh, dude, I got another shirt. You got me a shirt that doesn't fit. I want to see that reaction. But they always say, like, no, we're not going to open anything till the next morning because I don't know. I mean, it's just, I guess, depending on the people and the parents and how they want to do it. And I don't mind my kids opening it on Christmas Eve. We might put aside, a Christmas present that will hide so that way they can see, or they still have that opportunity to open it in the morning. But man, it's not one of those things. Like, my parents always made sure I was asleep on Christmas Eve. Or always asleep at a certain time after Christmas Eve, or like 12:30, 1 o'clock, because they're like, oh, Santa's not gonna come if you don't sleep, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the next morning we wake up and they open our presents, right? But as I got older, it's like Santa's gonna come, at 2, 3 in the morning, and we're all hanging out at a house. We're all drinking eggnog, which I don't like. I come to find out I don't like eggnog. And it's just like there's no point of opening it Christmas morning because I like to sleep in.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are still going to play with their toys on Christmas morning. I mean, that's all they really care about, right? Their video games, their toys, their gifts. So, you open it Christmas Eve, they're probably going to pass out after they open it and then wake up and play with all their toys. Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal for us. And like I said, most of the time, our parents and aunts and uncles were all having a good time and drinking. So they didn't really care what we did.
Yeah, can I open this? Go ahead.
Time of the year, you could run around and be a pain in the butt, and they wouldn't really.
Go ahead, open this one present. This is from your Uncle Mikey.
Then they get drunk and give you the wrong presents, and I'm like, opening up
I
the
don't
tie.
think this lingerie is gonna fit me. That's supposed to be for your mom.
Just running around wearing it on your head.
Oh man, have you ever? What was probably growing up and up to now? And don't give me no marriage is my best Christmas present. I don't want to hear that. None of that. What was the best Christmas present you got?
That's an easy one. It's to this day, it's still hands down my favorite gift. When I was young, I was 7, 8, something like that. And it was Christmas morning. It was one of those years where we waited till Christmas Day. And there was this huge box in the living room, but I guess it was too big for them to hide from me. So they told me that it was a gift for my sister, so I wouldn't be nosy. And they told me it was a piano, right? So I was all excited to surprise my sister with her piano, right? Because it was like the first time they ever told me what they got one of my siblings, because most of the time they wouldn't tell me because I would blab. So this time I held a secret, and I was all like, "Hi, I know what you got." Tell me. And then they totally surprised me. It was for me. It wasn't a piano. And what it was, and you can look this up, it was the G.I. Joe space station. And not the big, Barbie doll G.I. Joes, just the smaller ones. This thing was huge. And I mean, it was the space station. It was
I remember that one.
The shuttle that came off, and the big part that opened with the crank, the whole base came. I think my dad probably liked it a little more than I did, because when we got it, we spent the whole day just putting that together and nothing else. All the other everything else was just obsolete. We put that thing together, and oh man, that was hands down till this day. Sorry, honey. The best gift I've ever gotten for Christmas. I was like, they could have gone 2, 3, 4 years without getting anything, and I would have been happy because I still had that thing.
I mean, when you're a kid and you see a G.I. Joe, and it's one of those things where you see it on TV and you're watching it on TV and you're like, wow, I want this video game, right? Or this spaceship, right? Yeah. And you want to be that first kid to either get it, or you just want to be the only kid to have it, right? It's like, and then when you finally get to open that box and you're like, whoa, this is it. Wow.
Yeah. I for sure was, I think what made it even sweeter was that I didn't ask for that. In fact, I didn't even know of it. I remember just being blown away by it because I had never seen it at Toys R Us. Because, that was a thing when we were kids. You go shopping with your parents, and your mom goes to the mall, or for us we had Third Avenue, which was just an avenue where they had all the shopping stores, and you go into Toys R Us and you make a beeline for the toys. I mean, for the G.I. Joes, Transformers, that's where I was. So I was that kid. I looked at the circular on Sundays. I'm like, man, I wish I had that, man. Or like circling stuff. So, and I didn't see this. I had never seen this thing. It must have been new that year. I don't know what it was, but yeah, that was like, oh man. I was thinking about it earlier. Like, oh man, I wish I still had it.
Were you one of those kids where you walked around with, Gung Ho? I'm going to name a character, right? Gung Ho from G.I. Joe. And you say, God, Dad, if Gung Ho had Snake Eyes, if I had a Snake Eyes, Gung Ho would beat up Snake Eyes right now. Were you one of those kids that you just hinted to your parents that if I had this would be perfect right now?
Yeah. But like you try to be slick about it too.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, hey Dad, you see him? Like he fights with this guy. I don't have him though.
I don't have it.
Just throw that. I wish I did.
If I did, it'd be a better fight. I got I got my funny Christmas present, but go ahead and finish.
Oh no, I was just gonna say usually my mom would be like, well, you better go get a job. even at like 6 years old.
Like, what's his name? He's a Cobra Commander. Well, pretend he's Gung Ho and make him beat up whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, my Christmas story goes like this. It's a two-parter. So here, the first part is in 1985, Michael Jordan's on the scene of basketball, right? And for the first time, for some reason, his shoe drops. His Jordan 1s, his regular Nike shoes that everybody's buying, and they're skateboard shoes now, right? So the Jordan 1 drops, and I'm telling my dad, I want these shoes. Back then, they're probably the first $100 shoes that came out, or maybe close to $100. Yeah. My dad's like, yeah, I'm not going to buy you those shoes. It's too expensive, and what's wrong with it? So a month after its release, he brings me a box, right? And the box just happens to be the knockoff versions of these shoes. It's the swoosh. The swoosh is it's the opposite way of the swoosh. It has these. It was Pro Wings. If you had a Payless in New York and you knew what Pro Wings were, these were the knockoff versions of Pro Wings. And it's funny because the logo where it says the Jordan logo on the side of the ankle, it said Airwalk instead of Airs. So it's like, I was like, my dad's like, well, this is good enough. Go ahead and wear it, right? One day we were somewhere, and my dad, I was wearing the shoes. I was like, I'm going to wear it. My dad's, going to get mad if I don't wear it. So I'm going to wear the shoes. I was 13. They didn't know any better. We were at a store, and my dad heard these kids making fun of me because of these shoes, right? They're like, oh, dude, your mom and dad can't afford your Jordans. They have to buy you Airwalks. And then, it's like, what do you say at 13? It's like, man, shut up, man. Shut the fuck up before I beat your ass, man. Shut up. Yeah, you're trying to defend yourself, but you can't because you're wearing these, knockoff Jordans, right?
Kids, man.
And then, it's like one kid's like, man, if you had the real Jordans, would jump you for it, but this one would jump you for wearing the knockoffs. So I think my dad heard, he's like, oh, man, I kind of feel bad. I don't know what I did. And, and then my dad goes, hey, what are those kids making fun of your shoes? I'm like, yeah, but, their mama don't got a job. You come up with something like that, right? They use their welfare money for, you come up with stupid comebacks, right? So Christmas morning, 1985, right? It's Christmas morning, opened up all my presents. Everything was done. And I'm like, oh. And my dad's like, hey, let's go watch the basketball game. I think Michael Jordan's playing. So we watch it. And then that day on Christmas, he's wearing his black and white Jordan, or his black and red ones, because the original colors was the red, white, and black, right? Yeah. So this one, he's wearing the all black ones with the red trims. And he goes, isn't that the shoes you were asking for? I'm like, yeah, but not that color. I wanted, this color. Then my dad gets up, goes to the kitchen. I hear him and my mom talking. And then my dad goes, hey, can you open that box that's behind the couch? He goes, I think you forgot that present. I'm like, what's the box? And he's like, just open it. I open it up, unwrap everything. Man, tell you not, it was the black and red Jordan 1s that Jordan's wearing on TV right now.
Yeah, the bands, the one he got in trouble for wearing.
Yeah, that one. And I'm like, what is this? It's a size bigger, It was a size bigger than my dad's like, you're going to grow into it. Don't worry about it. I didn't want to buy you your size. He goes, but Merry Christmas. And man, I swear to God, I didn't know whether to cry. I didn't know whether to I'm like, Dad, these aren't even out. It's funny because if someone took a video of me looking at it, I probably looked at that shoe to wonder if it was fake or not, because I know the black and white ones, and these are the black and red ones. I'm like, are these real? Yeah. And he goes, the guy when I bought the shoes said these are coming out, on Tuesday. I don't know, Christmas fell on a Thursday or something like that, so he picked it up on Tuesday, and I was one of the first kids to have them, and I was just like, wow. Wow.
And you still have those.
No, it's a funny thing is I do still have them.
Do you really?
I have them. They're not as they're somewhere up in my shoe closet, but they're not as pristine as when I first got them. And I looked at the price and I was like, wow. And if I knew someone who knew how to restore shoes, maybe I might have to pay a little money to have these restored.
Yeah, and I might know a guy.
Yeah, let me know when you do. But these, the sad part is these won't fit me anymore because they were a smaller size back when my dad got them for me. But one of my kids are like, they'll fit me. They'll fit me. They'll fit me. But yeah, man, it's like when I saw that, I was like, wow. And then now that I think about it, I'm like, dude, my dad must have spent 150, 120, whatever, how much those shoes were when they first dropped, right? And all because these kids made fun of me. And it's like, I feel like telling my dad, my plan worked. I wore them on purpose so kids can make fun of me.
Oh, you're diabolical.
Yes. Yeah, I wasn't one of those kids that's like, God, if I had a gung-ho. I was one of those kids where like, I'm going to let my parents, let them hear what these kids have to say about me wearing these fake Jordans.
Yeah. I mean, my parents probably would have, they would have been like, yeah, you know what? He's right. Get a job. Yeah. And it's funny because you mentioned G.I. Joe is, man, I was one of those kids that maybe only had like 1 or 2 or 3 G.I. Joe stuff. And my cousin in Daly City, his parents bought him everything, every G.I. Joe thing, for Christmas. He got that big old F-14 or whatever airplane that he got. And it's like I would come over there for Christmas. We would come over there, and instead of like eating, we're like setting up his bedroom. It's like, all right, put Cobra Commander over here, and put Duke over here. We spent hours trying to put them in places, and we end up playing with them because it's like it's all about the setup. I gotta admit, growing up where I did in the projects and in New York, it's a bad area. It's a tough area, but I'm so thankful for my parents because we didn't feel like we lived, in the ghetto. And for the most part, even my siblings, like they if they could, they got us what we wanted, So I had tons of, I had video games. I had everything we've podcasted about, G.I. Joes and Transformers, and I had the whole complete Voltron set, that die-cast heavy ass, So for me, I was always really like, I think even now, just really nostalgic about Christmas, just because my parents really went out of their way to make sure, we had fun, even if we didn't get anything else for the rest of the year. If we didn't have birthday parties, stuff like that, they always tried to, come through for Christmas, and that was always very appreciated. So, Mom, Dad, if you're listening, thank you guys.
And that's one good thing I love about, our parents. And I'm going to say the same thing with your parents and my parents. Because, I grew up pretty much the same way you did. It's like we grew up in the Western Addition. And for you guys who are not from San Francisco, back when we grew up here in the 70s, the Western Addition was probably one of the poorest neighborhoods in San Francisco. It was a black neighborhood. There was the crime rate here was probably top 5 crime rate in the neighborhood. And my parents moved us here because this is where the rent was cheap back then. This is where they can afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And they did everything they could to not make us feel like we lived in the neighborhood. But I'm glad they did move us here, because if I didn't grow up here, man, I wouldn't be as, I want to say, tough, than I am right now. Because it's like I would have been one of those kids where it's like I would have been a pushover. But I'm glad they moved us here, and then I'm glad every year that they gave us, there was always food on the table for Christmas. There was always presents under the tree. Even though I never knew what a real tree smelled like for years, because we always, my mom was never into the whole, let's go get a tree and chop a tree down. Never into that. I had to go visit my friends in the suburbs and like, what's that smell? That's the smell of pine. Christmas.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because same here. I mean, we would have real trees, but we would go to like one of those kind of tree lots that pop up seasonally and kind of get one. But one year my dad wanted to do something special, so he decided to go to this place in upstate New York. And anyone not familiar with New York, when you hear people say upstate New York City takes up such a small portion of New York State. New York State is mostly forests and lakes and mountains and stuff like that, especially when you head up towards Canada. So we went upstate, and Dad found this place where you'd go out and they have, I guess, a certain area that you go to and you pick out what tree you want, and they chop it down for you. They have like fresh apple cider. It was the first time I ever tried apple cider. I hated it. Because they're like, oh, it's like apple juice, and it was like it had all this like sediment and pulp in it, and it was warm. I was like, what the hell is this piss? But anyway, Dad slaps this thing onto the car, National Lampoon style, right on the roof. They tie it down. We drive a few hours back to the city. We get home just to realize that the tree was too big to fit into the apartment. Like we couldn't even stand up completely. Like it was literally, I mean, our ceilings had to have been, what's the average height for 10 feet, whatever, less. I don't know. This tree was not standing up. So now he had to go borrow a hand saw from one of his friends to saw the top of this thing off inside the apartment now. So if anybody knows anything about trees and the mess they make, you can imagine. I mean, this thing was so big it had like sap. Like, what I mean? So now he chops the top half of this thing off. All right, now he can stand it up, but now you lose the point of the tree because it's like chopped off here. So it's like a bush. It's all short and fat. It was, what a mess, a nightmare. But I guess he didn't. It looked a lot smaller out in the middle of the mountain in the woods.
Of course,
But hey, you don't need to measure it or anything.
No, it's like we're getting that one. Does it fit? Who cares? Who cares if it fits?
It smelled amazing, though.
Of course, yeah.
It smelled great.
It's one of those things where you're just so excited to get your family out there. We're going to do a family thing. We're going to get a tree. You're going to pick the nicest one there. You're going to get it home. And you're going to be like, oh, shit. Damn it.
What did I do?
What? Did you at least get to decorate it to make it look like it was,
Yeah. I mean, we made it look as nice as we could. And it did look nice. It was just huge.
Yeah. Any of the Diaz's in New York, if you guys have a picture of that tree, I would definitely like to see it. I want to see what it looks like, just, But yeah, I mean, it's. Let me ask you this. When we always had our Christmas parties, and it was always with my cousins, right? It was always, before they moved to Sacramento, the majority of our Christmas parties was spent in Daly City. And we would always have the Filipino type food for Christmas parties. It's like you have your pancit, you have your lumpia, you'd have your adobo. We never had a traditional Christmas dinner till probably in my adult life, Right. So when I'm visiting, like friends on Christmas Eve, and I'm like, you guys got turkey and ham? Didn't we just do this for Thanksgiving? They're like, no, this is what we serve on Christmas. I'm like, what? Where's the lechon? Where's the lumpia?
Yeah.
Was that how it was for you guys too?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be honest with you. I'm not even sure what a traditional Christmas dinner consists of, because growing up, it was rice and beans.
Yeah.
Same thing. Lechon. Yeah. We had pasteles, empanadas. I mean, Yeah, a ham was always, that was maybe the most traditional, but even then it wasn't. It was a big canned ham that my mom would make and slice really thin and like, I mean, it was amazing. She
God,
add
I
all the
miss
stuff to
those
it.
canned hams.
Yeah. So, and then now, I mean, my wife, she's Filipina, her family, it's pretty much what you just mentioned,
Yeah.
same thing. So yeah, I don't know. I think we always just kind of made our own deal
Yeah.
with Christmas.
But you
What
always
is it turkey? Is that
I think
what's tradition?
you got to have some kind of poultry. So it's either turkey or
Okay.
chicken. And then you got to have the ham.
Okay.
And then all the other side dishes that's supposed to come with Christmas.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're right. I don't know what's a traditional turkey or traditional Christmas thing. In the movie Christmas Story, she was cooking a turkey. Remember when the dogs ended up eating the turkey? So I don't know. Is it turkey or is it chicken? All I know is you got to have some kind of poultry on the table.
Or it's a goose. Maybe it's supposed to be a goose.
Oh man, never had a goose.
Neither have I. I'm assuming it's probably like duck.
Yeah,
I would think fatty.
That's
if anybody knows what goose tastes like, let us know.
Yeah.
Hey, Casey, have you ever tried goose? He's the only one that comments.
Casey's probably the only one that would comment that tried goose. He's gonna probably say it's amazing. Casey's goose amazing. Let us know, Casey. Is it succulent? Is it succulent? Is it one of those succulent flavored goose? But yeah, man, it's just that's just how it was in our family. We never had, but now. With the wives and the in-laws that are coming into the family right now, they're bringing in some of the traditional stuff like ham, turkey or chicken. So you have your pies that goes with Christmas, your hot chocolates, like those traditional things that we have with Christmas. But yeah, I never knew, like, God, I didn't know this was a traditional dinner. I thought what we were doing growing up was traditional.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that those other traditional stuff that was involved.
Yeah, like in the song was that sticky toffee pudding. That's like a cake.
Is it?
It's not even.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I thought it was pudding.
Sticky toffee.
It's cake.
It's cake, man.
Let me ask you: have you ever had any bad Christmas experiences? Because I've had one that comes to mind for sure.
I want to say probably the worst. I don't want to say it was bad Christmas, but I would say the worst Christmas is when I first started working at the hotel. And it was kind of like the first year that I didn't get to spend Christmas with my family. My kids were still young. They were still, they were kids. They were not infants, but they were kids. And not being able to be with them on Christmas Eve was kind of like, geez. Yeah. But good thing was iPhones was already invented, so I was able to FaceTime them. And I don't know if you caught me in the cafeteria a few times FaceTiming my kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so those were that was a good thing about that. But I don't want to say any bad Christmas experience. I mean, I'm one of those guys, especially growing up, that I try to make everything work, whether whether it's something that I didn't get that I wanted or something that I'm like, why the hell did you get this for me? I try to make it work.
Right.
What about you?
For me, I was, and I guess I should say this, I had a bad experience leading up to Christmas. So maybe Christmas made it better, but I was 13 years old and I was playing, and this is why I don't play basketball to this day, but I was playing basketball in gym class in school and I broke my leg pretty bad. Man. Like I didn't even break it. I chipped the bone in my tibia and I had to get surgery. I had to get like 2 screws and 2 pins put in my leg. It was shitty, but this was on December 13th. Because of the accident, I had high blood pressure. So from the trauma to my leg, so they couldn't do surgery for a few days. So I was literally in the hospital with my leg in a brace, still broken, until they can lower my blood pressure to do surgery. They finally do surgery. They do surgery on December 23rd, the day before Christmas Eve. Man. They wanted me to stay in the hospital for at least a few more days, so after Christmas. Yeah. But I couldn't. I had already been there for over a week and I was just like miserable. And I'm looking at my dad and I'm like, no, please. So, my dad kind of just decided to put his foot down. He's like, no, he's coming home with us. He'll be all right. He'll be fine, which I was. And so, it sucked because Christmas morning I was like on pain meds. And like, if you see the pictures, I'm in my boxers. I got my crutches. I got this brace on my leg. I'm like pale from the pain because I probably should have waited we lived on the top floor of a 3-story walk up.
Yeah.
So you're talking not even 48 hours after my surgery.
Oh
my dad and my brother trying to carry me up the stairs without hurting me, which was not happening. So that was probably the worst Christmas experience. But like I said, Christmas actually made it better. I just kind of being with the family, being at home and not being in the hospital anymore, it made me feel 10 times better.
I mean, just the breaking the leg part is already a bad thing. And now having to, think about potentially staying in the hospital for Christmas. Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
And then the thing was, I was 13 when it happened, right? And so they had me in pediatric section, but I wasn't really a little kid. So they had me in the room with this young kid who was like up all night. I forgot what they were in the hospital for. Then they left, and then they brought this other kid who was a little older than me, who hurt himself playing football, and he snored like a bear. So it was like I couldn't catch a break. I couldn't sleep. It was just like, God, get me out of this place. And then they had
take me home, please.
They had some guy dressed up as Santa Claus, right, come and visit pediatric ward with a bunch of high school kids, like who are just kind of, volunteering their time. So here I am in the 8th grade, getting ready to go to high school with these same kids that are coming around with Santa Claus to give us gifts. And it's like, oh God. And they walk in and they see, okay, wait, he's not a little kid. So they're like, shit, what do we give him? So they're pulling out like a fucking Pluto from Disney stuffed animal. I'm like, thanks. A mini pool table, which was actually pretty cool. I kept that for a while. And get this, a fish. They had a fish, a Siamese fighting fish in a bag. Yeah. And I'm like, they like, want a fish? I'm like, all right. Now here I am in the hospital with a fish. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? It was really very odd now that I think about it. The fish, I named him Abraham because he looked like the fish from Different Strokes, and ended up eating all of the guppies I had to feed my turtle, and then gave them to my nephew's dad, who he eventually ate all his dad's fish too.
Yeah, those fighting fishes, man. Those fighting fishes are crazy.
Sorry.
I didn't know that they would kill the fishes.
We really didn't.
You don't. Oh man. I mean, but see, these are memories that can never be taken away from us, because we have memories that if you ask somebody their favorite Christmas story or their worst Christmas story, it's like someone always has something. There's always something that we remember, either leading up to Christmas or right on Christmas, or Christmas Eve and all that stuff. And the good thing about it is, and sorry for the ones who don't have family. Sorry for the ones who are families are far away, but a lot of this it evolves around family, right? It's always around family. I have a coworker who this whole pandemic kind of ate her up. She was like, her family's from the East Coast, her family's in Virginia, and this whole everything just kind of ate her up. It's like, pandemic, can't be around certain people. So for Christmas, she's going to Alaska. And she's going to go visit her brother out there, which is the next best thing to family, because her brother's there. So what did San Francisco do last week? They're saying if you leave San Francisco, you got to come back and, isolate or quarantine for 10 days, right? So it's like she can't catch a break. But then we found out, no, you kind of technically is a healthcare worker. So that doesn't, involve the healthcare workers. So I don't know. It's one of those things like, hey, just go while you still can, because, if they say you don't got to test, then you don't. If they say you got to quarantine, then you got to quarantine. But yeah, man, it's just, the way things are now, it's like the only thing we can do is remember the good stuff that happened, years ago. And you and I, and I apologize to the ones who don't, but you and I are fortunate that our family and our mom and dads are still here. That we still can say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and all that stuff to them. And again, to the ones who don't, I apologize, but this is just, how I feel right now. So that's another good extra thing that we can say and do, that we are blessed to still have that with us.
Yeah, I think the, like you said, the important thing is just to stay positive.
Yeah.
I know it's hard, especially as things have been dragging on for so long, but you got to remember there's always next year, right? And of course anything can happen tomorrow, but you don't necessarily need a holiday to tell people that you love them, that you care about them, to give them a gift. I accept gifts all year round.
All year.
So, I just, we'll just chalk this up to bad times and get ready for next year. And I think everything will be back to normal, or a better normal than it is now, So just, I just really hope everybody can kind of just try to find a way to keep their head above water and hang on, look on the right side of things.
There's a lot of good things that came out of this year, and that's something that me and Joe's planning to talk about in our next podcast. So we're going to end the new year and 2020 with, the goods and bads that happened. That's something we'll discuss next week. But at the same time, there's a lot of, good things that came out of this, a lot of, bad things that came out of this, and keep your head up, keep going. And I, I'm one of those guys where if I see a coworker, if I see a friend that's always down, I was like, hey, dude, my door's always open, or, if you're a girl, it's always open. Come over. If you want to hang out with me and my family, more than happy. But this is kind of one of those years where it's kind of hard to say that because, with COVID, it's like, I got elderly parents. I kind of don't want to just, bring them around a lot of strangers. But we will get over this. We will, it's one of those things that it's a bump on the road that we will definitely get over.
Yeah. Before we head out, I want to say real quickly, happy birthday to my dad. His birthday was on the 14th, a few days ago, and he's the big 70. And like Eric just said, we're still grateful and thankful to have our parents. I can call him up and ask him questions and complain, and he's always there to tell me I'm being dumb. Relax, it's not so bad, and it makes you feel better. But happy birthday to my dad. Love you, and hope you enjoy your Clippers.
Happy birthday, Mr. Diaz. Clippers, like head Clippers?
Yeah.
Okay, not Los Angeles Clippers, right?
No.
Happy birthday, Mr. Diaz. Good birthday. Before we end this podcast, so a couple questions I have for you involving Christmas. Favorite Christmas movie?
You mentioned it already, but I think it's the Elf.
Elf, okay.
I'm a big Will Ferrell fan, and I know Casey's probably like pissed off right now. Like, God damn it! Can't you think for yourself?
Think of something else.
But yeah, I don't know. The Elf is probably. I can't even really think of too many off the top of my head, to be honest.
What I love about Elf, if you watch the beginning of the movie at Elf, they had. Do you remember that? Like they had like. Was Mr. Snow Miser, and when he was trying to leave, they're adding all that stuff at the end and the beginning of the movie. So, man, yeah, that movie is it's a good Christmas movie. It has Christmas music. There's caroling in the music, and it has the whole spirit of Santa and all that stuff. It's a good Christmas movie. My favorite Christmas movie? I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's a good Christmas movie.
Oh, you're talking about
I'm talking about Elf.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
My favorite is always going to be Christmas Story, just because that's how we were as kids. We always wanted a certain present. We always bugged. Yeah. Remember how we were talking about the whole G.I. Joe, and in the movie he was trying to leave all these messages, and then at the end his dad ends up getting it for him because he's like, hey, what does every young kid want? They always want this. And what does he do? He ends up shooting his eye out. So it's like exactly how we are, as especially guys. Girls, I don't know how you guys were, but guys, we were always notorious to get a Christmas present, so excited, 2 days later it's broken. And that's just how we were as kids.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I know what my favorite movie is. It's Christmas Carol, right? Right, is that the one with the Ebenezer Scrooge?
Yes, that's the original one. The original one, yes.
But not the original one. The Disney version with Scrooge McDuck, the cartoon version.
Okay,
that is my favorite Christmas movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to look forward to that as a kid, and even as an adult, if I see it on, I'm watching it. It's like
there's a good one that I like. It's called Scrooge with Bill Murray. I don't know if you've seen that one.
A good one.
That one's
hilarious.
Yeah, that one's probably a good one too. But yes, I know which one you're talking about with Scrooge McDuck. It's like a little animated. Let me ask you this. This is a controversy that's been going around for a while. So let me ask you this. Is Die Hard considered a Christmas movie?
I will consider Die Hard a Christmas movie.
Yes. Thank you.
It's set during Christmas time.
Yes.
It's become tradition. And I mean, why aren't we allowed to have an action movie on Christmas?
Yes.
Yes. We have romance. We have, family stuff.
Comedy. Yes.
Comedy, and a good action Christmas movie. I think we could use one of those. And it's Bruce Willis. It's Die Hard.
Come on. It does happen during Christmas. So thank you for saying that. You got a lot of people who are like, I think they just did a thing for one of those universities and they said it's not considered a Christmas movie because of, it doesn't have any Christmas theme to it. And, I would think it's just the killing that's involved is the reason why they're saying that it's not a Christmas movie.
Oh, but then Thanksgiving is a Thanksgiving movie.
I mean, if you can have a scary creature like Grinch, or Krampus. Is it Krampus? The guy,
Krampus or Krampus?
Yeah, if you can have that, man, come on. You can at least have Bruce Willis going around killing terrorists or whatever
he's killing bad guys.
Yeah, for Christmas. Come on. He saved Christmas at the Nakatomi Plaza. Jesus Christ. But yeah, man, I mean, someone came up to me and said, well, man, if you're going to consider Die Hard, then Trading Places should be a Christmas movie too, because in that, that happened around Christmas time. What's his name was wearing a Santa outfit when he went, Dan Aykroyd was wearing a Santa outfit, when he was down on his luck. I'm like,
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I think to me, it's all about tradition. I mean, I don't think a movie necessarily has to be about Christmas in order to be a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Is that fair? I think I said that.
That's perfect.
So.
Perfect, man. Well, you know what? It's this podcasting has been fun, and I definitely love the things that we come up with, the things that we talk about. And again, for you guys who are listening, yes, we didn't really have a topic today to talk about anything, and we just wanted to share, our Christmas experience with you guys and some of the traditions we went through, and it's good to share, especially times like this where everyone's like either not feeling Christmas or not enjoying Christmas. It's a good thing to still say, hey, Christmas is still here. It's just not, it's on pause. It's what I tell a lot of people. It's on pause for 2020. And for everyone who's looking forward to 2021, I guarantee you next year, this time, we're going to be talking about what we're going to do for Christmas, who we're going to hang out with our families, all this stuff that we're going to do. It might not be what it was last year, but we're still going to be able to be hanging out with the family members like we used to. So can't wait for that. Can't wait for that. It's going to be fun.
We'll make up for this year.
We will. I'm still waiting for Joe made, what was the drink you made?
Oh yeah, I made some coquito. So if you are Puerto Rican, or if you know a Puerto Rican or have ever seen a Puerto Rican, any time near Christmas you may have seen or heard of coquito. And the best way I can describe it is a coconut flavored eggnog with rum. That's the most simplest way I can describe it, but that's not doing it justice. It's creamy, it's delicious. I'm making a batch tonight, so I will set aside a bottle for you, sir.
Thank you.
For everyone else who has their orders in, I am on schedule, so I'll have that for you by Wednesday.
I gave Joe a call yesterday, and I said, hey, I'm going to be in the neighborhood. Do you still have any of that stuff left? We want to try it. I'm always willing to try something different. And
my last bottle too, and it was just sitting there. And finally, someone claimed it, and that's when you texted me. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Should be like, let me see if this guy is ready to, But yeah, so if you guys want, I guess, a full review of what it's going to taste like, I'll let you know by next week on our next podcast. Again, I'm not a big eggnog guy, but the coconut, I'm a big coconut. I love coconut. So if there's coconut in it, then I'll definitely.
You don't taste the eggnog.
Okay.
You won't taste it. And we got some desserts for you too.
Perfect.
So,
Thanks to the wife for that.
Some pie.
And we will definitely swing by. I'll be like, Joe will be like, it's ready. Be like, what are you doing? I'm standing outside your door. I'm already waiting. I'm already
looking
here.
over my fence.
I'm here. Be like,
Cool,
there's
man.
a strange guy in a hoodie outside the house. Should we call 911? No, that's my boy. He's picking up his drink. It's like crack to him. Is he salivating?
It really is, though.
Is he doing all this?
I haven't had a milk mustache all week.
All right, guys. Everybody have a great, safe Christmas holiday and celebrate it the best way you guys can. Merry Christmas to everyone. Merry Christmas to the Diaz family in New York. Merry Christmas to the Ev, Ro, all you guys in New York. Merry Christmas to you guys. We will be back next week unless I have too much of that drink that Joe's gonna make. Cojito, is that how you call it?
Coquito, yeah, like little coconut.
Coquito. I mean, if I have too much, I might just be like Joe on his 13th Christmas and be a little like, all right, we're gonna get this podcast going.
It's a creeper, man. It's a creeper. If it's made right the way
guys.
I make it, I make the best.
Those are the best kinds.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, oh man, what is this, a virgin?
I don't taste nothing. Yeah.
20 minutes later, you're just knocked out.
Maybe I won't have it during our podcast. Maybe I'll wait till after.
No, you should do it. We'll both have it during the podcast. It'll be fun.
All right, guys. Merry Christmas, and we will see you guys
Christmas.
next year. Everyone, stay safe. We are
Peace.
the Ordinary Joes.
The Ordinary Joe's Podcast.